Welcome, everyone. My name is Ida Fernandez, and I'm the Executive Director of the Imagine Research Network. Joining me today is Dr. Paul Moayyedi. He's the lead principal investigator for the Imagine Network and its main medical research study, MAGIC. MAGIC stands for Mind and Gut Interactions Cohort. Dr. Moayyedi is also a gastroenterologist from McMaster University. We're talking to Dr. Moayyedi to get some information about the design of this study. So first of all, can you describe what is the purpose of the MAGIC study?
Well, simply put, what we're trying to do is find out the cause for diseases such as Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis, as well as irritable bowel syndrome. We believe that diet and your gut bacteria are important drivers of those diseases, and also the mental health problems that comes from suffering with these diseases. So that's what we're studying.
And so how does the study itself work? How does the design help answer that question?
Well, the challenge for researchers so far is when you look at gut bacteria, there are more bacteria in your gut than there are stars in the galaxy. So looking at this in a small number of people won't give you answers. There's just too much information there to separate healthy from people with these diseases in terms of their gut bacteria. So the principle of this study is to have a large group of people, 2,000 with Crohn's disease, 2,000 with ulcerative colitis, 2,000 with irritable bowel syndrome, and 2,000 healthy volunteers, so that we can compare their diet and their gut bacteria effectively.
Why is it important to collect data and samples from the subjects that are enrolled in the study for so many years?
That's a great question. So important information is obtained just from the baseline when people first enroll in the study. But the challenge there is that your diet changes when you have disease. So certainly the dietary information at baseline is not as helpful as it could be. But some people with these diseases do well over time, whereas others do not. And their diet may be an important role. And if we follow people up, we get a better sense of what is a good diet for these diseases versus what is a diet that leads to problems. And of course, the same is true of gut bacteria. Even if we don't find the cause, we can find markers of what predicts a good prognosis versus a not so good course of the disease. And then we can change either the diet or the gut bacteria to try and make the disease more benign in terms of its course, even if we can't cure it.
Now, talking about the diet surveys that are included in the MAGIC study, can you explain why they need to be so detailed? I'm sure a lot of the participants that are enrolled in the study right now are wondering, why do we need all this information?
Yeah, well, I'm not a food scientist, so I actually take the advice of my colleagues that are experts in this area. But simply put, what you eat is a complex thing. It's not so easy to say, I eat meat or I eat mainly vegetables. To get a granular view of what someone is eating takes a lot of questions, and there's no getting around this. People have studied this for 30 years, and so far no one has come up with a simple dietary questionnaire that is accurate. You only get accurate information with long questionnaires, sadly.
So some of the surveys that are included in the MAGIC study feel a bit repetitive. It feels like you're asking questions in different ways. Is that intentional?
Well, we try and keep the information we get from participants as little overlapping as possible. But the challenge is we are using validated questionnaires, and they are evaluating overlapping issues. So inevitably, there are some questions that are repetitive, which we can't take out because the questionnaire itself is validated. And the moment you mess with it, it no longer is validated and therefore not as scientific.
Great. So can you explain in very simple terms, what does it mean to have a validated survey?
What it means is that researchers have looked at the questionnaires and show that it is measuring what it is intending to measure. So if you're looking at the severity of irritable bowel syndrome symptoms, for example, you compare what the questionnaire is doing with some sort of gold standard. You also look for other things like, is it reproducible? So the same person answering the same questions will give the same answers each time, and whether the questionnaires are measuring similar things or actually quite different things. It's a science in itself. And we have gone with questionnaires that have been validated by others before.
So as part of the MAGIC study, you mentioned we're recruiting 2,000 patients with Crohn's disease, 2,000 with ulcerative colitis, 2,000 with irritable bowel syndrome, and 2,000 healthy controls. Why do we need so many participants?
Well, as I said, the challenge is the information we're collecting. If this was a simple thing, we would need less people. What we're studying is the gut bacteria, which there are enormous amounts of bacteria in everyone's gut. And you can't study that sort of enormous amount of information with just a small number of people. To make sense of it statistically, you need, we estimate at least 2,000 people in each arm.
So what makes the MAGIC study unique and hopefully inform future treatments for IBD and IBS patients?
Well, the uniqueness is actually the large sample size. Studies to date have looked at 40, 50 people. And like I said, you can't get the information you need on that small number of people. It's also the first study that's really drilled down on both the human genetics, the genetics of the bacteria in our gut, what they produce, which we get from the urine sample that participants give, and what those gut bacteria are producing, as well as how the diet is influencing that. It's that rich source of information in a large group of people with these diseases that has not been done before, and we certainly not compared with healthy volunteers, which are equally important in this study.
So participants in the MAGIC study need to contribute blood, urine, and stool annually. Can you tell us what information are you learning from those particular samples?
Well, we are learning a vast amount, so I'll keep it simple to the main things that we're getting from each. So from the blood, the main thing is actually just your genetic makeup, because we know your genetic makeup can influence risk of disease and the course of the disease. From the stool, we're looking at gut bacteria. And from the urine, we are looking at the metabolites of both your body and the gut bacteria. And actually, interestingly, in your urine with all these metabolites, they're mainly from the bacteria that are in your gut. So we can see what the bacteria are, but also what they're doing, which is what the urine tells us.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Dr. Moayyedi. Really appreciate your time, and we're really excited to see the results that come out of this particular study.
Thank you very much, Ida.